It's a kind of a sober, sober subject. I actually, when I stopped working, there was a period of time I did this. There are, there's a huge number of Warior current drugs. You have minimum break. And so it's very problematic. Oh, this is Hello. How are you? This is someone who used to live in New Haven. Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask for your help again. And, we actually are building an economics. We have a PhD in economics at the university. And so we put the topics through. And I was trying to. I did this all myself. Pretty much all myself. We did have an office for about 2 hours. But the Ukrainian community here had a disastrous well, because I took kids from Donbass and I took kids from Crimea, and I tolerated Russian. But and so I stopped taking students, and I wanted to reformulate the program. But I'm actually I took students and I put emphasis on economics. So I have 2 kids. I have the top economic graduate in high school in Ukraine in 2015, and he is a 3-time national Olympiad champion, first place in national final state. And he is a refugee from Donbass. And so, then we have this, we already have the most probable top economic driver. We have other students, but I identified 110 kids. I found it. So I identified 110 top high school kids in 7 subjects: economics, math, computer science, biology, physics, and chemistry. So we have top kids in that. We have the top kid in the math, international math. So we have top. But I wanted to do something a little bit more focused. And I have some ideas on how to do building the Donbass. That's. I found some ideas. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I can get more of these ideas. And we have but again, the question of course is developing some local gears within all the work. Because next year I think we're going to be able to get even this. I don't necessarily want the top. So within that group of 110, I want to find the 10 kids that would help work. But no, we had an office in New York City. One of our guys is actually look at some of the people who've gone back to work, they're not really that qualified. Our kids are more like but they're less idealistic. They're not going to volunteer.
Good day. So good to see you. That's great. You're more prominent than I am now.
What a lifetime you ever did.
Okay. Yeah, so actually, I remember.
Whoa, I'm gonna blush. Seriously.
But it's the next time I mistake.
And actually,
Since you're sitting a lot.
I can see some filtration. We have another guy. He's with that. We have another one who's a senior in college. She won a national prize in,
You just leave your camera against so you can do it while.
and then we have a woman.
We actually use it also for this. It actually, even then you can see dramatic rates right here.
Well,
very bright.
And,
Well, oh, yes, it
Yeah, it's
Я думаю, що ми стали це.
I'm forgetting what this.
Що
Oh,
того?
Sheva. And she's a new, she went to boarding school for and
You guys, I think,
Yes, yes.
This is the church.
I'm sure, listen, my face is not all very busy. That's okay. That's okay.
if I had money, then I would give you all the keys. I should still forget if you're having your son. Well, first of all, and I prefer that because it reduces the stress on them and making it so that it and I can I can fly and getting whereas if you have 25 kids, so I stop the program. And then
Там
I
Ram.
it's like very I realized you were lacking much capacity in one and then how do you involve like
Wow.
Діма, хочеш сісти? Ми будемо читати, ви як можеш тут написати?
So, you have to understand this. Well, no, but I mean, it's not all this stuff that happens. I left New York City in
Знаєте, його запрошують українські організації, його немає.
Hey guys, I just hello, hello, hello. And also some men out there have a nice conversation of this. Must be about love. Thank you. we'll have plenty of time to talk after that. I just wanted to, we're not starting yet. And I apologize for delays. I guess it's like Friday night, and we are on the Ukrainian schedule, I guess not the American schedule, so people are late. But we will be starting very shortly. I'm just waiting for someone who will say the introduction on behalf of the building that is hosting us, and then we will start. So, hopefully like a minute or two and we'll be ready to go. Well, but thank you for your patience, and we'll have plenty of time to talk afterwards, so please stay with us and please bear with us.
Ми користаємо
Задорого, но на мой взгляд задорого. Вже 12 років. Що повернеться? Так, я займаюся з точки зору фінансів. Так, вже мені знову на цьому році. Засновано було воно референдум третій. Сім'я референдума. Потім вони йшли. Це ваша справа, немає. Дуже цікаво те, що тільки досліджує багато різних питань. Я знав, що як домогтися кращого розвиваючи країна, діти видані заміж, вони діти, як це, як дати можливість дівчатам, потім саме дорослі, мобільний аккаунт, приймати рішення. І багато неможливо. Тобто ми працюємо. Я просто сказав, зрозуміло, ви давно
Я приїхала, якраз переїхала. У складі. Це я питала.
Він нам здавав. Вибачаю, що ви читаєте. Ні, ви не бачили того, що я читаю, зрозуміло стає, що це були тільки там. Вранці проснувся і сказав. Ні, це було десь його. Вже читав суперечили, можна там про істочники.
Another crazy guy. Okay. That's okay.
we should be starting in a minute, right? I think, let's have everybody. Okay.
We have one person on Skype.
And everything is working?
Yeah.
Well,
Come on. Let's go with chop.
Dima, Dasha,
Yes, yes. I said, I was also no, that's the way. Yes, yes.
No argument. No problem. Yes, I will wait for my older lady to
Yes. Tak,
Okej, dobry.
Okay, ready. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Karina Tarnowski. On behalf of the Shevchenko Scientific Society and our board, I would like to welcome you today to this unique event. Our discussion will focus on several Maidan-born organizations who will present their humanitarian projects in Ukraine. Their highly effective and laudable effort is a manifestation of the new Ukraine, which is springing up before our eyes and deserves publicity and scholarly attention. I would also like to welcome our special guest, Christina Waller, the Director of Humanitarian Initiatives of Canada-Ukraine Foundation, who flew to New York just to take part in this event. Our special thanks go to Professor Irina Bushko, who once again proposed this idea to continue the discussion that we started back in June when we hosted the Forum Humanitarian Crisis in Ukraine. So today's event is a continuation of that one, and we invite all of you to take part in it. After the presentation, please join us for the reception that will be held upstairs. Thank you for coming. So welcome again, and let's begin. Irina?
Okay, well, I just said a few words a minute ago, but I'll start again. I'll probably start in Ukrainian and then switch to English. Дякую вам всім дуже, що ви прийшли. Знаєте, п'ятниця вечором, і в п'ятниця вечір, і багато різних речей відбувається в Нью-Йорку, і ми насправді дуже вдячні вам за те, що ви прийшли. Ми цінуємо вашу присутність тут. And in English, I would like, first of all, to thank the Shevchenko Scientific Society for having us here. There are not so many of us here, but quality is more important than quantity, as I sometimes say. And it's a great pleasure to welcome all of you here. Especially, it's a great pleasure to have wonderful people on the panel. I'll just say a few words about the idea behind it. I've been one of the activists, and I've been doing all kinds of things, but recently I've been working on with the Wounded Warrior Ukraine project. That is a project of psychological rehabilitation. Most of you probably would have known. And we're nearing 1 year anniversary, so we were thinking about a celebration, an event that would mark not only ours, but also the achievement of the others who are similar to us, have been doing all kind of projects in Ukraine, and that's the idea, right? So we'll have a panel discussion, and we specifically invited only those who work in Ukraine, only those who are relatively young, like us, who are Maidan born, who grew out of Maidan, but who have been very active in the past year or more with projects that are related to medicine or humanitarian assistance. And so I'm very pleased to welcome Dmytro Dobchi from Save Ukraine. And I'll just, Dmytro will start, but we'll have several others. We'll have Dasha from, whose name escapes me, last name escapes me now, from Razum. We are very happy to have Christina Weiler, who literally flew in today from Toronto, and Roman Targovitsky will go last. We'll talk about psychology and psychiatry. And we will then have all kind of treats from Shevchenko Society upstairs, so please stay with us after the presentation, and there will be discussion afterwards. And thank you very much to all of you for being here.
Hi, my name is Dmitry. I actually represent Save Lives Together Foundation. Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you, the organizers of this event, for the great opportunity to be here today. Also, I would like to congratulate Wounded Warrior Ukraine project with the anniversary. We actually all are very thankful for everything we do. Thank you so much. And I've spoken to a few guys that in your project, and they said that it changes their lives. So thank you so much. So now I would like to say a few words about our foundation. So Save Lives Together Foundation is committed to providing support and help to Ukrainian residents, to servicemen and servicewomen, also to first aid workers, medical faculty, treating casualties and victims of crisis in Ukraine. Today, the Save Lives Together Foundation has delivered over 1.5 million worth of medical aid, tactical devices, tactical gear, uniform, and we actually will continue to purchase and deliver life-saving medical and tactical supplies to Ukraine. Without this supply, many lives would be lost. Today, Save Lives Together Foundation, one of the largest independent suppliers of Silex, quick lot, combat tourniquets, chest wound seal kits, tactical gear, tactical medical backpacks to Ukrainian army, and other facilities in combat zone. The foundation is also involved in equipping mobile army hospitals and military field ambulances, and we are actually very proud that our work is supported by people like you from all across the globe. Хотіли би трошки розказати ще більш детальніше про наші проекти. На даний момент існують проекти, котрі є постійними. З постійних проєктів, котрі є, це індивідуальні аптечки для військовослужбовців. Там вже на фронт передано було більше, ніж 1500. Так само це медичні рюкзаки. Це так само наш постійний проєкт. І так само є постійний проєкт – це обладнання для швидких і польових шпиталів. Окремо існують проекти, котрі починалися як тимчасові, в даний момент вони більше приходять в постійний характер. І один з них, котрий мені особисто дуже цікавий, це допомога спецпідрозділам України, починаючи від спецпідрозділів міліції, закінчуючи спецпідрозділом Збройних сил України. Це так само і медикаменти, і закінчуються тактичними речами і формами. Тобто обсяг проєктів дуже величезний, і намагаємося покрити всі можливі сфери, де є якась потреба і люди потребують нашу допомогу. Це такий короткий екскурс в нашу діяльність. Дякую.
Я додам кілька слів, напевно, українською. Мені здається, що Дмитро так досить скромно себе описав. Насправді я знаю більше по постах з Фейсбуку, ніж через Дмитра, а про те, що вони насправді роблять неймовірну роботу. Мені здається, що зараз на теперішній момент Safe Life Together це один з найбільших основних постачальників аптечок і якогось базового медичного обладнання. І насправді, тобто те, що я бачила по звітах, це якийсь неймовірний сум, наскільки я розумію, їх тільки кілька людей працює, і те, що вони роблять, то насправді тільки викликає захоплення. І я теж хотіла, also thank you to Dima for being so brief and so concise and within a space for discussion. And I think we're happy to introduce the next speaker, Dasha Kožemякina, that is representing Razum Foundation. We'll talk about Razum for Ukraine humanitarian aid project. And
they need a presentation for this from here. Okay. Just whatever. So, if you don't mind, I'll show you this slide first. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, can you hear me? My name is Daria, and I'm from Razum, Ukraine. And first of all, I'd like to start with a short overview of the organization and what is Razum for Ukraine. Razum is a non-profit organization that supports the citizens of Ukraine in their continuous struggle and quest for democratic. So everything started in 2013 with a bunch of people who were very concerned about Maidan and all the events, and they decided together in New York, Washington, everywhere, all around Philadelphia, all around the so it was the first meeting face-to-face of New York. Razum, since then, organization grew very fast, and there's a picture of first annual meeting of Razum. It was held in 2015, and since February 2015, Razum for Ukraine is a 501c3 nonprofit organization which is registered in the United States. And what I would like to say that Razum for Ukraine has 6 core initiatives, and you can see all of them. It's Razum IT, Razum Odessa, Razum Think, Razum Culture, Razum 8, and Razum Partners. And I would like to stop on 2. It's Razum 8. When everything started, with the wish of help to those who were at Maidan. And first of all, there was just immediate assistance to those who were there, and to those who were affected by events in Maidan. But during the time, there were a lot of volunteers and a lot of people who needed assistance. So Razum decided to focus on 3 main initiatives, which are care packages, school supplies, and diapers. So speaking about care packages, it's what's special about it that it's aimed out to people. So we know exactly who receives those packages. So this is family, and the specific family, and they receive what they need right now. So it's either clothes or anything, any aid, and we know for sure that they receive it. So it's more personal thing. It's not someone they're gonna get it. We know those people, and it's very personal. And school supplies, as the school year started, before the school year started, there was obvious need for children who were affected, and from those families who were affected for school supplies. So this was one of the ideas that this specific thing might be very helpful. And of course, diapers, which is very costly and always need thing for newly born kids. So speaking about completed projects during this and previous years, there were 340-foot containers of humanitarian aid, general humanitarian aid that were sent to Ukraine during this year. And there was a project called Maestro, during which more than 1,500 of water filters were sent to Ukraine, to those areas where there is no access to clean water. And speaking about Horizon Partners, it's a program where Horizon works with other organizations and helps them to complete their projects. And one of those is support hospitals in Ukraine. And as you can see here, the 340-foot containers were already sent to Ukraine. Estimated value is almost 2 million, and the last one was received on November 15th. And those supplies will be distributed among hospitals in Kyiv, Dnipro, Zaporizhzhia. And so briefly about the general accomplishment of Razom. So during the period of organization existence, there were raised over $220,000 from individuals, donors, banks, investors, and there were shipped medical supplies, as I already mentioned. There were held a lot of events, more than 100 events with 10,000 people who attended it, and there was built a team of volunteers who's currently working in Odessa, and Razom was working with Ukrainian embassy and like we're not stopping. So for the end of 2015 and 2016, we're planning to first develop initiatives and bring the teams, strong initial teams, to continue our missions. And this successful end of the fundraising campaign I want to tell you about. So it's going to be called Gloves and Synthetics, and everyone can join and buy a pair of wool-made gloves, which are actually made in Ukraine. And with the purchase of those, you're gonna help one child in Ukraine who's gonna receive a package for St. Nicholas Day. Every child is waiting for St. Nicholas Day, so December 19th, every child is going to receive this package. So if you'd like to join, feel free to contact us via Facebook page and via our site. So I have any questions?
I'll just say a few words, right? Razom is the largest organization that I know of in the United States. Not only they're the largest, but they're also the most active. Right? Antonia is just like similar to Metro, was being modest in that they actually, what have they done can be estimated in the amount of funds that they collected or the number of events that they carried out. I think that's the initiative and the pure spirit behind this is just the model of inspiration from all of us, I would say. Now our next speaker will be Antonina Kumka, and I didn't introduce her. She's not here physically. She's in Toronto. We will launch things over Skype. Can you please come and help him? I'll just say a few words about Antonina's project. Antonina is running a prosthetic project in association with Canada Ukraine Foundation, and she's been bringing volunteers, American doctors, into Ukraine with twofold purposes. One is to actually to fit prosthetics to Ukrainian soldiers, those who lost limbs, but also train Ukrainian doctors. And she will talk more about hopefully technology will cooperate. Yep. You ready for you? Can you?
Morning, everyone. Nice to see you all tonight here. My name is Antonina. Can you hear me well?
Not really.
Working on it.
We can try it.
Hello? Is it better?
Hold on a second.
Sure.
That's right. Tell us again.
Hello?
Yeah.
Better now?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi. My name is Antonina. I'm very happy that Wounded Warrior Ukraine has invited me to this event tonight. I live in Canada, and I am Ukrainian Canadian. I represent CUIA Fund of Canada, and I'm a coordinator of Ukraine Prosthetic Assistance Project. We have been working with Wounded Warrior Ukraine for a bit, and I would like to say that what they are doing is a and people are about them in Ukraine. Almost every day we get asked if we know who they are and how to get in touch with them and how to sign up for their training and their seminars, whether it's in Dnipropetrovsk in eastern Ukraine or in Karpaty in western Ukraine. So thank you very much to Wounded Warrior Ukraine for everything they do, and we hope they continue doing what they're doing. On our part, our work is a little bit in a different direction. We work with limbs, so we work with people who have lost their limbs, and Ukraine Prosthetic Assistance Project started a year ago as well, almost a year ago, and the second phase is planned for March 2016. The main idea of the project is the training of the Ukrainian specialists. Ukrainian specialists face a huge problem when the war broke down in Ukraine because they were not prepared for the wounds and the resulting issues that came with that. So they were not able to do everything they were supposed to do and what people were hoping for. That's why a lot of the soldiers and some of the civilians were shipped abroad, and they had to receive their prostheses and rehabilitation abroad because it was not available in Ukraine. So our goal is to bring a team of specialists to Ukraine and train the Ukrainian specialists on the ground to make sure that they know how to do advanced functional prostheses on the ground. The team of specialists is actually from the States. It's an organization called Prosthetica, and they are based in California. The president of the NGO is John Basdorf. He's also the president of the International Society of Prosthetics and Orthotics of the U.S. He's putting together the team, and they go and work with the specialists in Ukraine. At the same time, they're also fitting the soldiers and fitting the civilians. So the first time we were able to do 6 people, and this time we're planning to do more, about 8 to 10 people, and train probably around 15 specialists from across Ukraine. So that's what we are about.
Okay, Tonya, I don't know, Tonya, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, so we will try to get you on back for the discussion session, because I'm sure that people will have questions. So thank you very much. And if you just can stay for a few minutes, I'll just say how I got in touch with Tonya. We've never met, so Tonya is one of those people of Ukrainian activists whom I've never met, but we've been talking a lot on Skype, on Facebook, and with most other people I don't remember how we met, how we got introduced to each other. But I can only assert that I've had the most wonderful things about Tonya. I met some of the doctors. One of the doctors is based in New York, and everyone has been telling me how crazy she is in a good sense, right? How she's like full of spirit and full of energy and is unstoppable, right? And it just, I can also say that she's been running her own orbit, just with a little assistance, and it again only amazes me how bad the energy can come forward with work. So thank you very much, and we'll get you back on for the discussion. And to say, because Tonya is not here, so she cannot really speak physically for herself, there are flyers downstairs, and there will be flyers and information brochures for her project upstairs for the reception. Okay. Tonya, we'll get you back. Please stay with us. We'll get you back and for discussion. And I would also now, our next speaker, and I think that we've been amazingly efficient, is Christina Weyler, who is Director of Humanitarian Aid Programs of Canada-Ukraine Foundation, and we are extremely happy to have her today because we invited her on very short notice, and she agreed to come on very short notice to join us on her off here for discussion.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. I was a colleague of mine, Ruslana Jasnowski from Canada, who's with the Pomoho Green Fund, has worked with the Warriors project, and unfortunately she had a family emergency and couldn't come last minute, and she asked me to fill in. So I'm here to talk to you about some of Canada-Ukraine Foundation's initiatives and some of the Pomoho Green. Canada-Ukraine Foundation, just briefly, is the foundation arm of our Ukrainian Canadian Congress. So it's a national foundation in Canada, and all the diaspora organizations or foundations, most of them at least, belong to us, and we have a board of directors that represent somebody from most of the big diaspora charities in Canada. When Maidan started, we needed a vessel to try and concentrate our diaspora's efforts. So about $1.6 million have been collected, just checks and cash from the diaspora across Canada since the Maidan started. We sent a medical assessment team at the end of Maidan to determine how we as a diaspora from Canada could best help. We had several different specialists. One of them was a surgeon from Sunnybrook Hospital, which is Canada's largest trauma center. He's a craniofacial reconstructive surgeon. His name is Dr. Olaf Antonishin. And after seeing the boys injured on Maidan, he saw that a lot of them had their eyes poked out or their heads bashed in. And a lot of them are going internationally to receive care for that. And they're spending, volunteers were collecting tens of thousands of euros and dollars to send them either to Israel or to Germany or to Poland. And some of the surgeries that they were having weren't that effective. And the reality was they needed follow-up surgeries, and they need another $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 to go back there. So Olaf suggested that we send a full surgical team to Ukraine and do the surgeries there at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost for these people to go abroad. So I have 3 projects that I'm going to talk to you about, but the main one, I guess, is our surgical missions. The next one is through the surgical missions, we met a little boy who, while playing with his brother and some friends, found an undetonated RPG and it exploded. The brother died on the spot, 4 years old. Paul is 11. He's now lost both legs and one arm. And we will be bringing him to Canada at the end of the month to Shriners Hospital to be fully outfitted with prosthetics. And the nice thing is that Shriners has agreed to follow up with his care for until he's 21 years old. Keep changing up his prosthetics as he grows, he'll continue with care. And then PTSD rehabilitation, which is who we work with the Wounded Warriors Fund on. It started as a project for widows and children. We were asked originally by the Canadian government to bring them to Canada for treatment and help. And we said, we don't think that that's the right idea to take them out of their environment, out of everything they know, and work with specialists who have no idea about their background, who don't understand where they're coming from. So we ended up training trainers and sending them there. So I'm going to, instead of telling you more about the medical mission, I have a 4-minute video that's just going to explain to you exactly what we do.
Як ви знаєте, в Україні триває вже більше 1 року війна, яку розпочала проти нас Росія. На жаль, протягом цього року українська армія несе досить великі втрати в живій силі і має дуже велику кількість поранень.
It's an honor for us to be in Ukraine, and it's an honor for us to be able to support young Ukrainian military servicemen who are fighting the war against Russia. We're extremely proud of them, and we're committed to helping them in every possible way that we can.
We operate out of the Central Military Hospital in Kyiv. We work alongside their doctors and train them while we're operating. We bring all the equipment from Canada.
One little flow that's at the treatment up to date. So these guys were fighting for their country, for their independence, for something that is a human right. Here these boys are like, patch me up, stitch me up, I'm going back. That's how patriotic they are. Amazing. Amazing.
I think the passion that you show is really, really a signal of hope for the country. That these people not just wanted to get out of the country.
Ударил машину, ребята повыпрыгивали, пошли боим, вытащили. Правда, они меня забыли, они меня выкинули на одну сторону машины, а сами с другой стороны, да. И танком эвакуировали, а я еще полчаса бегал.
Я прочитав, нам гості не дало, що я прочитав, але напевно я не зміг прочитати, знаєте, там Вася там був правого боку біля мене, і якраз він от після вибуху, він бачив, коли він погнав,
Through his back, the bullet went up into his neck and fractured his jaw. We did massive reconstruction surgery, and he came back
follow up and
These soldiers are so brave, they're so courageous, they have the strength, they have everything. What we are given is just a little bit of hope.
Україну ще ніхто не ставив на коліна і не поставить ніколи. Ми будемо кругом переможцем в усьому.
So in a nutshell, we take a full surgical unit. They give us a whole wing of the hospital for 5 days. We operate day and night. We have 3 beds running. This last mission, we've done 3 missions, I should say. Each time we've operated on about 30 guys. This last mission, we did 38 surgeries. We have surgical hours over 5 days. We take 6 full staff surgeons, 2 residents from Canada, 3 anesthetists, and 11 nurses. And we operate alongside. This time we had Kane, as I mentioned. So we're now collecting funds to bring Mikola to Canada. He's going to have costs associated for the rest of his life. Volunteers in Ukraine are collecting money to provide them a wheelchair accessible home. They're going to go. They're from Mariupol. They're going back to Zaporizhzhia. On top of that, we do PTSD rehabilitation. So, What's that? Post-traumatic stress disorder. So, the women and children of the men who died are suffering greatly, and they're all over the country. We bring them 40 at a time to the Karpaty, to the Carpathian Mountains. We have psychologists that have been trained by professionals from Yale who came over and did that. And we also work with some of the psychologists that are with the Warior project. They come to the body and work with kids that they do art therapy. We take them hiking. We do team sports. And then we've taken this model and we've been working with the Warriors project, and now we're bringing soldiers, and I'm just going to let Roman.
Currently, is a founder and is currently running the Warior project, and the organization, the official name of the organization is doing Prosper. So it's a project of an organization, and its main purpose, its main focus is upon psychological rehabilitation for people who are either affected by the war or are suffering from the post-traumatic stress disorder. And one of the others are not equivalent, right? But one can live with the other. And he will talk more about the project.
First of all, Christina, I want to thank Christina and Nina, because when we were starting the project, we felt that it's really important. In addition to bringing aid to Ukraine, it's hugely important for any kind of sustainable future to build up the training capacity of the Ukrainian army. And that is really the key, because it isn't possible to continuously bring people to Europe, to Israel, Poland. We really have to deal with the capacity of the healthcare system. And this is also thank you for the video. I think this is one of the most powerful videos. So we were Ukraine. So for us, as for many of us, it started on Maidan. Recently, I watched a very good movie, Netflix movie, with the Winter on Fire. So how many people watched the movie? So this is obviously a picture of Maidan, but while I was watching that movie, a question came to my mind: what is actually missing from the picture? And what is missing from that movie? And the pictures, all the visual images, they always tend to show the heroes of the action. They always tend to show how people resist. What they don't show is the consequences, be it physical injuries or psychological injuries that people then have to deal with for years. And it's in some way for us as consumers in a way, it's hugely dangerous to watch the visual images because it may feed us those emotions which we may lack in the course of a regular life, and we just show how other people resist, but we don't see what actually happens to them, and we don't get involved with actually working with them. So what is really missing is what people have to go through after they experience any type of shock trauma, be it during Maidan events, or when they see their friends being killed or exploded to pieces, or they lose parts of their body. And this is one of our trainees. The picture on the left is after Maidan, but before Max joined one of the volunteer battalions. The picture after is after he lost one of his limbs. So how do you find meaning after, when you are so young, when you're 24, when you think that your future is ahead of you, when you think that you're going to have a family, when you're out there to meet women, and then suddenly in a society that doesn't have a clue how to work with people with physical challenges, you suddenly turn from somebody who is trying to move the society forward into somebody who actually needs help. And he needs a lot of help because the Ukrainian bureaucracy rejected his claim that he participated in ATO operation, and for the past year and a half, he has been fighting in courts to prove that he was actually a soldier. And what happened is that they did not enter him properly into the database, and based on that, they have been refusing his claim. So he is surviving on his mother's pension. And here is one of the great reasons why physical rehabilitation and what Antonina and Christina are doing is super important, because when we come in and we try to work on a psychological level, and somebody does not have a minimum sense of decency from the society, that he's not able to acquire, for example, a prosthetic device. He's not able to acquire a regular rehabilitation that he needs. It's really challenging to provide any type of psychological rehabilitation because it becomes all about lack of meaning. So what do we do? And this is not obviously all people suffer physically, but most people, for example, in the US, we know that about 22 people 22 veterans, US veterans, die per day. Right? So the traditional mental health care model involves experts, and these experts either psychiatrists, highly trained psychiatrists, or highly trained psychologists. In Ukraine, there are two major problems. One, there are not that many well-trained psychiatrists and psychotherapists who are trained to work with post-traumatic stress disorder. The second problem, which is not exclusive to Ukraine, but is common to all countries, is that soldiers do not essentially, on a deeper level, do not respect psychotherapists and psychiatrists. Because once you go sustain yourself on the edge between life and death, you have psychic, emotional, physical experience that most psychiatrists and psychotherapists have never experienced. And therefore, even before, oftentimes what we see in Ukraine, even before psychotherapists even attempts to say something, they lost it. The soldier is not going to open up to them. And if they're not opening up, there is basically almost zero chance for the successful treatment of any type of shock trauma. So therefore, the model, right, and what happens as a result in the traditional medical model is that if you look at the initial event or series of events that initiated the trauma, so the sequence, this could be explosions, this could be people losing their friends, then people come back from war, the war ultimately, hopefully ends, they come back to peaceful life, they come back to their families, they see that their relationships with their families change, the relationship with their kids change, people become much more emotionally reactive and angry, and they cannot explain what's going on with them. So they scream at their kids sometimes, they lose temper. That may lead to intergenerational trauma, meaning that the trauma is being passed on to the next generation. Ultimately, 5, 10, 20, sometimes 30 years later, they do enter into a healthcare system. So now I'm even talking about what's going on in the US. They enter the medical system either through psychologist, psychotherapist, or psychiatrist. But at that time, the treatment becomes much more complicated because this is now a chronic condition. And the complicated scenario in Ukraine is that here, these are pictures taken by Antonina of some of the psychiatric facilities in Ukraine. So top left corner, this is, you can see a bed covered with metal mesh. This is a psychiatric ward at one of Ukrainian hospitals. So basically this means that soldiers now are getting at psychiatric facilities, right? So those people who actually went to war to defend their country, to move the country forward towards democracy, this is the type of conditions that they end up with. And because there is not enough training among psychiatrists, oftentimes there is just pure over-medication. Because psychiatrists don't know how to deal with PTSD, so what they do know is that they start prescribing drugs, and the outcomes are not, they do not look very good. So the model, this is actually a quote that I would encourage you to read. Unfortunately, I cannot read Ukrainian stuff, but this is a quote from Antonina after visiting that psychiatric facility in Chernivtsi. So therefore, the model that we are implementing is very different. We are adding a step into the traditional mental health care model. And that step involves activating the veterans themselves. Essentially, we are providing training to the veterans, and during the training, we help them to start working, recognizing, and overcoming the shock trauma that they sustained themselves, and then ultimately move towards providing peer-to-peer support to other veterans. And the principle is equal to equal, and equal here means that somebody with same type of experience provides support to another person who had very similar experience. So somebody who sustained amputation has a very great ability to connect on a very deep level to somebody who also is sustaining an organization. Somebody who has been fighting on the front lines is working with similar people. Parents who lost their children in the war, they're working with other parents because they are the first, they are almost the only people who can fairly efficiently connect to the emotions that people are experiencing. And as a result, once we increase the number of the well-qualified veterans and civilians, basically they will be the first entry into the healthcare system. So oftentimes what we see observationally is that our graduates, and we graduated in the first class in July, they can, within a couple of sessions, they can completely stabilize the person psychologically through using body-oriented approaches. So not much of a talk there. And then further, if the veterans or civilians need more assistance, then they are redirected to the professional psychotherapist. But at that point, people already sort of lose the stigma against the mental health care, which is very prevalent in Ukraine, partially because the regime has used psychiatry to suppress dissent. So our goal for 2016 is really move even further into creating a sustainable operation in Ukraine. So we want to move away from bringing resources to Ukraine and then leaving, because this type of work is not really sustainable long term. And therefore, our entire focus is on building Ukrainian team. So we are bringing trainings into Ukraine to train local professionals so that then we can pay them monthly salary so that they can make a respectful living, and these professionals can then train others. So we are training on one hand psychotherapists who are leading our trainings to the veterans. On the other hand, we are providing training to veterans themselves, who then after graduation become co-trainers, and then they can make a living also by leading these trainings as well. And that is the part of the psychological rehabilitation where a person understands that they can live a very fruitful life, not only at war, but also at peace. We are launching online magazine. Actually, the first article came out today. This article is about story of Max, the picture of whom you saw. And we will continue to build up the online magazine to cover the stories, the human side of the story of each soldier who is going through our trainings and how they are changing throughout this training. And we are also building up a social business capacity. So we are now have several discussions with two major Ukrainian channels who are interested to purchase the trainings. And this is our hope to start making money in order to move into basically self-sustaining operations so that the Ukrainian team can actually earn money and then use this funding to run the trainings for veterans, which are free of charge for veterans and civilians. And then we're launching sort of our newest initiative. We're launching a brand of Ukrainian handmade products for distribution in US. And to finish, I just wanted to share sort of a more personal story that recently happened in Kharkov, where we were giving a training. There was a gentleman about 55 years old who came to our training, and he basically would not speak. He looked like this. He would not lift his eyes, and later we learned that he spent 4 weeks being imprisoned by DNF in Donetsk. So his own employees reported on him, and he was arrested and taken into jail. 3 of his friends were killed, not just shot, but they were massacred by beating them to death, all in front of his eyes. He was tied down for a couple of weeks, and As a result, he acquired this type of torture so that he even could not lift his hand. He has two children. The son became very active in trying to free his father. The daughter literally froze. And as a result, she developed a very severe spasm in the neck. And 8 months after that happened, she came to our training for a request of her mother. The father of the family, within 3 hours of the training, for the first time in 8 months, he started making jokes with his wife. He went from here into actually opening up, and he became much more interested in life, and the training gave him the meaning that basically he was lacking, because after spending 4 weeks basically being sure that you're going to die within the next couple of days and then miraculously surviving, he acquired the meaning that he can actually now learn something, that he can actually create a meaning out of his experience and bring that knowledge to other people who have undergone very similar experience, because there are a number of people who have been tortured. The wife of this gentleman asked us to work with his daughter because they went through all the doctors in Kharkov. They have done x-rays, MRIs, everything that was possible. And nobody had any idea. Psychiatrists tried to feed her medications. Nobody had any idea what to do. So we worked with her for 2 hours. Her symptoms decreased from 10, severity of 10 to severity of 3. We've been working with her for the past 3 weeks, and her symptoms basically stayed at 2 or 1. So this just emphasizes how much shock trauma Ukrainian society has acquired, not just during Holodomor, not just the intergenerational trauma, but the Ukrainian society, as we speak, is acquiring more and more trauma, and there is not much capacity within the society to work through that trauma. And those of us who have that expertise here in the US, and there are quite a few people, we have this opportunity to actually stop or reduce the intergenerational trauma that is going to affect Ukrainian society even more. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much, everyone. And if Dima will agree to come back here,
it's illegal officially for internationals to come in and operate on Ukrainians in Ukraine. So you had to find a loophole to do that. The loophole is that we're being invited to teach master classes. In that sense, we are allowed to come in and we're actually allowed to physically touch the patient as long as the patient is okay with that and signs consent, understanding that they are allowing these doctors, international doctors who don't hold licenses to practice medicine in Ukraine, to do so. There's a million and one insurance issues, but so as far as Roman goes, we're open to that. It's hard. So the surgeries that we do now, surgery is always really complex because complications happen. You're looking on your fellow doctors to do all the follow-up care, which puts a lot of responsibility on the healthcare system. So we were very lucky that in Ukraine we had a partner willing to do that. He's willing to take on all this work without a bribe. In turn, he's going to be getting from us $700,000 worth of equipment. We are outfitting him with every single piece of equipment that All Foundation has at Sunnybrook. The Canadian government stepped in and gave us $1.2 million to do that. So we're building a center of excellence for them to continue this work after we leave. And within these 4 missions, we think and we believe that we've taught them enough with the new equipment that they will continue it. And the head surgeon there has been trained in Germany, Dr. Igor Figirko, and he's more than capable. We'll be bringing him to Canada for observerships through this project that we've got going on. These surgical missions are sort of a small part of a bigger $1 million project that the government has stepped in and agreed to help us with. It's called capacity building within the medical system of the Ministry of Defense. So that's our hope of making it sustainable for the future, and we're open to working with other institutions. It's just hard on the Ukrainian side of things we've built trust between the doctors that are coming from Canada and the ones in Ukraine. So to bring in other institutions, bring in other professionals, there's a challenge there, but we're not against it, I guess I should say. But you would need a leading physician from the United States to be willing to take on all the extra work. I mean, All works his tireless job, and he does, I'd say, at least 30 hours a week on this every week between missions. We try and keep 6 months between missions. We only have 3 until our next one because we have to spend the government money before the end of the fiscal year. So without his work and without a leading professional, it wouldn't be possible. I don't know if that answers the question as far as sustainability and engaging with the United States.
Well, also, the other question is, I think you did a very good job with that part. But the second question is, I worked on the psychiatry in 1976, and this is going to be a long-term.
Maybe Roman can take it on.
How do we also focus on making Ukraine globally successful economically so that it can afford to take care of itself? Because there's only so much capacity. You can have all these. And Canada's not a poor country, right? And the United States is not a poor country. And we have trouble moving.
When Honda sells its cars, it tries to sell the car to just a couple of segments, right? It doesn't try to sell the cars to Martians, right? So it's the same thing with us. We can focus on a very well-defined project and try to do it well. As a consequence of this project, new opportunities come for people, because one of the core principles of our training is that when people sustain shock trauma, there are basically 2 possibilities for them to develop. Either in Ukrainian reality, they start drinking, or they get abusive, or they get lost, or they lose basically their social circle, and that basically is step by step path to increased likelihood of depression, anxiety, divorce, and so on, right? Or they're lucky enough that there are people next to them who can support them in a meaningful way, meaning that they can provide them, on one hand, space to come back and just from the war into the peaceful life, and that they acquire
very specific instruments that allow them to stabilize and find the peak experience in the shock trauma, because during any shock trauma, as harsh as it is for a human being, there is a peak experience. Sometimes it's just a complete realization that you're living in the present moment, that you're not living in the past, you're not living in the future. You're actually, on one hand, you're living in the present moment, and you're connecting on a very deep level to people around you. And that's why it's very hard for guys to come back from war, because the relationships oftentimes are so much deeper and more meaningful in the environment of stress, because physiologically also we produce different sort of hormones, right? That predispose us to actually make connections, because when we connect, it's easier for us to survive. Right? And so what we focus on in the later stages of the training is on developing this aspect of shock trauma, and thanks to that, developing this positive aspect, people have an opportunity to reframe their life and then go into discover new things. And a lot of people who graduated from the first training, that's exactly what they're doing. They realize that they no longer want to do what they had been doing before war, but they might be interested in, opening in startups, in developing the country. And this is a very fruitful time to do so, because there is an amazing number of volunteer soldiers who have basically put their lives literally on the border. And it is an opportunity to empower these people to actually change the society. So that would be my answer to your question.
I have a question. Which fraction of the people do you expect to cover?
Whom do you address this to?
To anyone.
Then what people are you referring to?
The people with the syndrome.
So we are gradually, we don't know. So in Denmark, they basically have been doing this for a couple of years. So it's not like there is a worldwide experience of background of 30 years, and we can say we can go to McKinsey, hire McKinsey, and ask them, okay, so if 20% of the population goes through our training, then the society will be fine, and within the next 200 years, there is going to be 10% change of intragenerational trauma if the person height is below 150 centimeters, right?
That's nice.
We just cannot do that stuff. So what we can do is we can gradually develop our capacity and train both the psychotherapist trainers and the veteran trainers, and learn, teach, educate, assess the quality, what works, what doesn't work, see how it actually works in real life, because what I find, the more I work on, in real life, the more I understand that I may have certain ideas, but when these ideas meet reality, then reality hits me with a hammer, implying that these ideas are not always adequate, right? So you adjust your ideas. So therefore, what we're doing right now is we're gradually building the capacity, and up to this point, it has been very effective. How many people? We have basically a business plan that outlines how many people realistically we can train in order to keep the quality.
I had a question here from this lady.
My name is Lilia. Has the panel heard of mindfulness-based stress reduction?
Yes. So we do something in a way much more broader. One of the issues with mindfulness methods is that they're useful, but part of the problem is that, so for everybody else who's not familiar with mindfulness-based, it's one of the main keys is the concept is taken from traditional Buddhist meditation, and the client is taught to observe in a neutral way the sensations of the body, and that has a very grounding effect on the nervous system, and there are a number of studies that show that it's effective for post-traumatic stress disorder.
Solid data since the 1970s.
Right.
And also, if I just, before you continue, I want to suggest that I think it would be an excellent tool in preparation for talk therapy, for instance?
So our training divided is in broadly in two parts. The first part, we don't even touch the trauma at all. It's based on psychoeducation, on explaining to people how neurophysiology changes as a result of shock trauma, and that it's literally not a big deal. That this is a sign that you're a human being. The second huge portion is all sorts of meditative grounding, manual therapy techniques, and we go much deeper than mindfulness-based stress reduction. So we have developed basically proprietary methods that allow us to go beyond MBSR.
May I suggest training the veterans who work with their co-veterans in mindfulness-based stress reduction, so that they can connect with their compatriots, and that way you have been more practicing that than
so
just
we are training the veterans.
Oh, okay.
Our
With
whole
that
concept is that we are training veterans to provide peer-to-peer support to other veterans.
Okay.
And mindfulness-related methods is a big part of that.
I see.
My name is Victor Jubank, and Dr. Jubank originally from Ukraine. I just came from Ukraine about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and my own experience like that. So I reached Ukraine, and I was invited to give my statement. I'm a specialist in rehabilitation medicine, chronic pain, addiction. So basically, on the first day, I was worked as usual. And on the first day, I made a presentation. So basically, I was totally rejected. Those doctors that were stressed about 3 doctors, very few actually wanted to listen to me. And there are some that even questioned if I had secondary education, including that I'm more certified than here in practice more than 10 years. So the situation is quite difficult. So basically, you have sexual resistance, and the point here is that the second time there was a conference, so the next day, I listened to those presentations being made by Ukrainian professors, including I have the degree from Ukraine, who didn't count. So basically, when I listened to those presentations that were made by Ukrainian doctors, they are very simple. You don't have to stretch your mind. This is some simple, something else. So my mistake when I started to speak, I was much more specific. So they didn't listen. So anyway, the next day, like 5 or 6 people say they are very interested, and also they say they like me. So the whole idea of it is, so basically, unfortunately, the professional level, and probably those that they're using the same term. So me personally, I'm from the training, I had a hard time to deliver even very simple message. Even I did offer that they will training because this actually, in all these situations, the big issue, psychological issues aside, but the big issue is chronic pain, addiction, and so on. So they did not want to listen, but all the just the critical what can be done. So there are some people who want to listen. And also another thing, when if someone comes to from the United States, to the training, they're not doing anything of that. They don't understand that they're using the same terminology. But the content of what they say, they understand the difference.
Okay, can you zoom into the actual question or statement, or how you would like?
No, but this is actually I'm zooming. Right? So whatever you do a great job. But that's a drop into the ocean, nothing. Right? So how that should be done there are some educational institutions, and they're kind of forget some of the what you can do, because you see, even I've been there.
Okay, I think we know. I think we
Yeah, so I
understand.
think- I think
no, but
Christina.
that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, what
So
can we do?
basically, can you do
Christina,
in the order to get the larger audience, so you have to have people really, so you can do this. For people educated through through Skype, online, some education,
So-
you can reach.
For us, our first mission, we came there. It was very difficult. The only doctor that would really work with us on the Ukrainian side was Dr. Fedyorka, and it was probably because he knew he was going to get equipment in the end of it. That's the first mission. And his bosses told him he had to. Because by the second mission, we had gained some street credit, for lack of a better word. All of a sudden, doctors started coming themselves who heard the type of surgeries we were doing. We were doing surgeries that have never been done in Ukraine. And it gave doctors an opportunity to come and observe. We had, at any given time, we have 20 surgeons around the table. It's not the most sanitary thing, but people started coming. The third mission, this last one, the director of the Health Department of the Ministry of Defense called in every single craniofacial surgeon, from like the head surgeon, from all the different hospitals, from Odessa, from Kharkiv, from Lviv, from all the hospitals all over Ukraine, and had them come and start watching us. I think the reason our project works is because we didn't just go once and then leave. We come back and we show them that we care, and we continually come back and we continue to educate them. And we work hard never to belittle the education that they have or belittle what they know, but to exchange ideas with them. So when you're working side by side and you're operating together, we determine patient treatment pathways together. Our doctors consult with everybody. We have our neurosurgeon speaks with their neurosurgeon, and they determine. Our anesthetists also work together to decide what type of best anesthesia they can give. I think also to that end, you need to pick those people that are willing to work and that come to you at the end, those 5, and start there.
Okay, excuse me, sorry, no,
So,
because it is.
We have telemedicine set up with them, so you want to go bigger, right? So right now we are, through our project, it was 1.2 million. We are also setting up telemedicine between Sunnybrook Hospital and the Kiev Central Military Hospital. The military hospital administration staff themselves asked if we would set it up in all of their hospitals, in all the Ministry of Defense hospitals that have a craniofacial department, so that all of the doctors can turn in and exchange knowledge and work together. So that's one capacity that we're doing it in. It's a challenge, right? If they don't want to learn, they're not going to learn. So you have to find the ones that are willing and not waste your time on the ones who are naysayers.
Okay, just let's say I would like to take like one last question, and then we'll have plenty of time for the discussion.
Питання, прохання, чи є, можливо, ви знаєте, можливо, зможете допомогти. Вони питають, чи буде хтось хірургів, хто був в В'єтнамі, чи в іншій рівній ситуації на фронті, хто може сказати, як правильно організувати фронтовий питання, чи фронтову хірургію.
There's a program called ATLS, Advanced Trauma Life Support, which is sort of frontline surgical response. $200,000 of our $1 million grant is going towards starting this training program. We're working with an organization called Patriot Defense. They're bringing in trainers from Great Britain, and they're going to be working. They've signed a memorandum of understanding already with the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of the Interior. We're starting to train their surgeons on this. If you want to put us in touch with them, we can include them in the training.
Okay, no, I got torn. So let's like two last questions. So we'll take two questions from the audience and then together, and then people on the panel will respond. I have a gentleman here and a lady here.
This one over here.
Go on to Nina, okay.
I've seen.
Here. Oh, okay.
So basically, I've seen your numbers. It's kind of the same question. It keeps getting repeated here. I've seen like first time you tried 6 patients, and the next time 8, and of course there are thousands according to social estimates at least. So how do you plan to extend that? Do you at all? Are you trying to work with anybody, with officials in Ukraine? Because there are people there, there are organizations, government organizations that are supposed to kind of do that. Have you ever tried? Thank you.
Yes, quick question. So the idea of the project is not fitting of the amputees. The idea is training the specialists. The money does come from the government. If you hear somewhere that the government does not pay for any of the victims of the war, this is not true because the government of Ukraine is fully covered and adequately covering the prostheses for the amputees in Ukraine. The amount that they allocate varies between civilians and military, but even for civilians, it is quite adequate. It does give them an opportunity to get good quality prostheses. So when we go in March, the government of Ukraine is paying for the parts that are going to be fitted for the patients, for the amputees, and the money for the specialists going to Ukraine and staying there is what we're basically covering from our own pocket. And the specialists are volunteers. They are the best of the best in the world today. One of the specialists, for example, is one of the people who have invented the robotic arm. I don't know if you have seen it already, but it's been a big hit lately. He's from New York, and he's the one that Irina was talking about. So they know what they're doing, and they know it really well, and they try to transfer their skills and knowledge to Ukrainian specialists. The best thing about these people is that they are super approachable. When we first came, they were very excited about being there, and the Ukrainian specialists felt that openness and excitement right away and jumped on it, and were working closely and eagerly and hands-on the whole time. We normally go for 2 weeks, and this is what we're going to do in March again. The project led to another development. The NATO agency has decided now to start a school of prosthetics and orthotics in Ukraine, which has never existed there before. It is an officially recognized program that will be recognized all around the world, and the specialists will be trained based on the International Society of Prosthetic and Orthotic Standards. So this is something that has been initialized recently and is now in progress. What that means for Ukraine is that Ukraine will have more and more development towards world-class prosthetic assistance, as well as rehabilitation that goes with it, because the specialists keep emphasizing that two most important things that people need to understand about prosthetics is that it does like rehab. It's 50% of the success is rehabilitation before and after treating the patient, and also the thought that it is better to do on the ground where the patient resides, right? Because then there needs to be a regular follow-up by a person who knows what he or she is doing. So that's why our goal is the training.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll take one last question. Yeah.
I just want to comment on the sort of psychological content of the question. I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, it's such a huge problem. There are hundreds or thousands and thousands of people, right? And you are working, for example, I'm not sure about the numbers, 50, 100, 200 people, right? And then the problem becomes overwhelming, and then you might as well just not do anything and just go and just watch a movie or have a beer and drink and get more out of it, right? Now let's reframe that. Most of these projects, and Antonina, and like all of these projects, right, were mostly started by one or two people who basically picked one very specific question and basically became champions for this question. If they didn't do that, basically the impact would be zero. It would be absolutely zero. So in case of Antonina's organization, it would be 0 people who would have gotten any kind of assistance, rehab assistance from Western professionals. There would be 0 physicians who would have been trained either by Christina's organization or Antonina, right? So the comparison is not millions of suffering people versus those that we help, but really the comparison is 0 versus the contribution that you are very realistically, each one of you very realistically can do.
Just to quickly add to that, Antonina's right in that the prosthetics is one issue in Ukraine, but rehab is really a huge issue right now. But there are Ukrainians taking, the bull by the horns. Ukrainian Catholic University is starting the first ever master's program in physical rehabilitation. So in physiotherapy and rehab. They're going to have occupational therapists being trained for the first time in the country. It's the first program of its kind. They're building a world-class rehabilitation center, and they too are hoping to work with NATO on this. So Ukraine recognizes the problems, and there are people within the country working with massive international organizations trying to build the capacity within the country as well.
Okay, so just very last question so let's take 2, because I know people came from New Haven. So a lady from Connecticut and then Maron Melnick, who came from New Haven, I know.
In the form of psychological help, you just see a soldier and you see the kids who work with kids. Because you see a lot of kids who's blaming the mother because the father died.
Yes.
And how do it's going to work? You start in Kenya, teaching people, the people going to come from other region, or you're going to split?
I think that you walked in a little late. So we have our organization, Допомога Україні and Canada Ukraine Foundation, together with an NGO in Ukraine. We run PTSD rehabilitation kind of getaways, that 10 days in the Carpathian Mountains for widows and the children. Psychologists from Yale worked with psychologists in Ukraine and taught them. They train them to specialize in child therapy or traumas such as this. And some of the psychologists actually came here as well and did some training. And the organization that we're working with, New Generation International Charitable Fund, Nowe Pokolenie Ukrainy, they've been working with orphans in Ukraine for the last 20 years, and we have psychologists who've been working with these kids who are also Pichelsa do nas. And we've done 8 rehabilitation sessions already of 40 people apiece. So that's mothers and children. And they come. So originally the list came from the Ministry of Defense. We also work with volunteer groups called Initiative E Plus, Ukraine, and so people put their names forward, and from all over Ukraine. Actually, one of the best things that happened is that we were taking widows from all over. So there's one woman who lost her husband on Maidan from Review, and somebody from Dnipropetrovsk came, and she didn't believe that Maidan was real. She thought it was something that the government that had organized, the US government. anyway, long and the short of it is, by these women coming together at this rehab session, the truth sort of came out of what really happened, and people understood each other better from east and west, and they came together, and now these women have actually formed their own hotlines and their own support groups within themselves, and they're helping each other and their kids.
Yeah, just last
Yeah,
one
so
last
can I
question.
just add to that question? So basically, I think there was also a question about how we select people. So we work with veterans. The team's organization works with widows and orphans, and then we have a program together that when we work with families of veterans together, and then we have a program where we exclusively work with veterans and we train veterans. And essentially, we have a number of instruments that we designed in order to select people who are most likely then, after going through the training, then go into the community and actually work with other veterans and distribute the knowledge and provide peer-to-peer support.
Did you work with the volunteers? You work with the kids because they know the kids and they know the problem. Did you see that in your network? Because they have a lot of volunteers we know that they need. Anyway.
Okay, maybe we can maybe we can have a discussion afterwards. Maybe we can have a discussion. Moran from Moran Mali.
I'd like to first of all applaud the work that everybody's doing, but I specifically would like to underline the point that Roman made about building the medical capacity in medical systems inside the work that we're doing in the community. I want to bring up a point which I think is valuable here in terms of building some kind of sustainability for programs. I think one resource that is somewhat underdeveloped is universities. There's a lot of hospitals and medical programs. I'll bring up the other example, but PTSD program we talked about last summer. We helped organize that as a follow-up program that's being organized now. We're working with the local health leadership institute, and I'd like to talk to you about later. But the point I'm making is that when you engage with academic organizations at hospitals and forefront of PTSD treatment, and that's the area we're focusing on specifically, you tend to bear a lot of resources. And for example, when Yale organized this conference, they got funding from Open World, they got funding from the trainer organization. We're now working on getting funding from USAID for a more sustainable program. And probably this next summer we want to do some kind of conference follow-up to the program that took place last year. So to address the question of sustainability and to reinforce the points that you're making about training trainers and making the healthcare system more self-sufficient in this area, because it needs a lot of support at this time. I think it's important to recognize that there are opportunities using resources at leading universities and hospitals to start these programs, because when you engage them, you automatically bring forth a lot of ongoing support and sustainability, and that's something that the training community cannot replicate with the resources that it has. So it's important to tie into that channel as much as possible.
I completely agree. The one struggle sometimes in Ukraine is that different ministries have their own healthcare system. So the Ministry of Health in Ukraine is one system. The Ministry of Defense has their own medical system, and they do not work together. The Ministry of Education has another medical system, and they do not work together. So some of the schools that teach medicine are actually under the Ministry of Education, not under the Ministry of Health, and they do not collaborate. And same with the Ministry of Defense. It's kind of a mess. So, but to that end, I completely agree with you. And Ukraine needs to work on that and work on współpracę between ministries. But it's like if a Yale, for instance, wanted to partner with one of the universities, they'd probably actually be partnering through the Ministry of Education, not through the Ministry of Health itself. So it's kind of like we don't work with the Ministry of Health in Ukraine because they're very difficult to work with. We only work with the medical system with the Ministry of Defense, and that's where we're building our capacity right now because they're the most open to it.
Now, I just add a comment. I mean, no doubt about that. I mean, we would love any type of collaboration relevant to PTSD with American institutions. The only minor problem is that it takes a huge lot of effort without having prior connections in this field to build meaningful relationships. And I have tried reaching out to Harvard and a number of other universities, and it's all on the stage of talking. There's so therefore, my point is that we are not just open. We would love this collaboration because oftentimes in Ukraine projects come up during lunch break. Recently I was talking to a psychotherapist friend, and she said, like I have all this training in PTSD. I keep taking this, 3, 4, 5 day seminars, but then I think my clients are moving into the stage of sort of real severe PTSD, and I have no idea how to work with that. Do you know anybody from the American healthcare system, like a psychiatrist or psychotherapist who has extensive experience working with very chronic PTSD that connect me, right? And so thankfully I had some people and I immediately connected her, right? But the more connections we have, just for our organization, the more connections we have to experts here, the much easier it will be to move this into a sustainable future.
Okay, so just a very quick question. How do some of us, me for instance, who want to work or volunteer at one of your organizations, learn about those opportunities?
Can I say, if I may, just on behalf of everyone, right? There are flyers. There are flyers downstairs. There will be flyers upstairs. Metro, all of us will be upstairs, right? We'll be happy to connect personally or institutionally, and I'll be happy to give you all the addresses that you have, right? I just wanted to comment on sort of a variety of organizations here, various size and range. And that's why I just don't want to open another discussion, right? But there are flyers here, there are business cards. I'm sure that everyone has business cards, right? So you have the chance to connect. And that's, that's on that note, like as Esther concluded, that was one of the purpose also of this specific evening, was to bring people on board, right? Because some of those organizations may not need people, but we desperately, and I talk on behalf of Roman doesn't really spell it out, I'll just take a chance here, very non-altruistically, right? If any of you wants to join, they're basically, right, we'll be really more than happy. And well, thank you very much for all of you being here. We didn't know what will come out of it. I think it came out real well. We had a great discussion, and we will continue the discussion upstairs over snacks and drinks. And I'm sure that we will see each other hopefully in the future. As this is only the beginning, it's only to touch base. And thank you very much. Thank you specifically for Karina. She forced me to do this, right? I had an idea. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do this. It's only because of her that we are here. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for joining us. It was awesome. Finally to meet you. Bye bye.
No, everybody.
Well, what we do, we now use our psychotherapists and veterans or trainers to train new future point structure. And then we train new psychotherapists, psychotherapists who need more training so that we can actually expand and scale. So we're basically focusing on training the trainers
Що ми робимо зараз?